Hello, it's your friend Phil, Project Management Trainer and Coach. Today we're going to take a look at the PMBOK Guide 6th edition relationships. Now, when it comes to the 5th versus the 6th, there is some stuff that is similar and then it branches off. So a lot of what I'm showing you right now is similar to what is in the 5th edition. Let's get started, let's jump into it, and let's check out the landscape of processes in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Project management starts off with a document, with an authorization document. And this document is known as a project charter. Now, before you get the project charter, other things might have occurred. But the first process that we encounter in the PMBOK Guide is called Develop Project Charter. Now, the Develop Project Charter process is one in which the project sponsor signs off on a document called a project charter. And this document gives the project manager the authority to apply resources to the project and to basically lead the project. Now, the major output again from this, I'm going to show these in circular or elliptical shapes, and this is known as a project charter. And the project charter, like I said, is a very important document in the world of project management. This gives the project manager lots of authority and recognition where this is used. It's not used in every firm, but where it's used, it becomes really powerful for the PM. Pretty much puts the PM's project on the map. Now, after the project charter has been signed, the project manager should begin to think about other integrative activities. And in this video, I'm going to focus more heavily on integration, even though I will bring in a few other knowledge areas to drive home what exactly integration does. So the project charter becomes an input to another process known as Identify Stakeholders. And in Identify Stakeholders, as the name implies, the project manager is identifying people that may be impacted by the project, people that may be able to impact the project, and people that may be interested in the project. And we refer to this as a stakeholder register. This document that is generated from here is known as a stakeholder register. The stakeholder register could contain all sorts of information beyond just the names of entities or people that we know as stakeholders. It could contain information about their level of interest, their level of power, which phase they're most interested in, and what some of their personal requirements or expectations are from the project. So going back to our project charter here, it also becomes an input to another process known as Develop Project Management Plan. Now, this other process is also in integration management, and it's where we develop a plan for how to manage the project. And it's known as Develop Project Management Plan. And I'm going to abbreviate some words here just so that it fits into the boxes. And in Develop Project Management Plan, we get an output known as, obviously, the Project Management Plan. So here is our Project Management Plan as an output. And it's a very important document in the world of PMI project management. So now we're beginning to see the picture. The project charter at the very center there, a very important one, and also the project management plan. These two are extremely important foundational documents, and both of these come from integration management. Develop project charter and develop project management plan are both in the integration management knowledge area. Now this project management plan becomes an input to our next process here. And this next process is really what drives a lot of the work on the project. It's also in integration, and it's known as direct and manage project work. And as the name implies, direct and manage project work is where you are directing and managing the work in the integrative sense. So we have a process in which a lot of things are being done. Direct and manage project work. And I hope as we're going through, you'll take some time to maybe jot this down yourself and create your own data flow, because the more you do this, the easier it is going to be for you to remember what exactly is happening. So again, it's in integration management, and the major output of direct and managed project work is called deliverables. Deliverables. And these deliverables could be products, services, or results that have been agreed upon in the project management plan. So you can see the chain of events that's happening here. We have a project charter, a project management plan, and deliverables. Now, these deliverables become a very, very important part of the PMBOK guide all throughout, because all of the 49 processes in the 6th edition, or the processes talked about in the 5th edition, they're all geared at one thing: deliverables. Products, services, results. And these deliverables should also satisfy the customer. So customer satisfaction is really the end game of all that we do. Deliverables to give the customer that satisfaction and to satisfy that need. So these deliverables, they almost, as it were, develop a life of their own. These deliverables become an input to where they will be checked, and they also become an input to where certain knowledge is going to be gleaned and shared. So let me show you these relationships here. With specific interest in the 6th edition, deliverables become an input to a new process known as manage project knowledge. Now this is not in the 5th edition, but it is in the 6th edition. So you want to take note of that if you are studying for the 6th edition. Manage project knowledge is one of those processes that is not in the 5th. Okay. So that's manage project knowledge, a process in which knowledge is generated and shared and pushed to the wider audience in the firm and on other projects. Going back to deliverables, deliverables is also an input to a process that is known as control quality. So deliverables become an input to this process I'm about to show you, known as control quality. And in control quality, this is where you check the deliverable as the performing organization. This is where the performing organization looks at the deliverable and asks the question, is this fit for use? Does it conform to requirements, all requirements? Is it fit to go to the customer for their inspection? And if it is not fit for use, then we don't send it to the customer. If it is fit for use, then we do. If we don't send it to the customer, then that alludes to a change request that needs to be put back into production. And this deliverable needs to be reproduced. It needs to be redone. Okay, we need to redo the deliverable. And if it meets the needs on the next go round, then we send it to the customer. If it meets requirements and meets the needs for which we undertook the project, then we send it to the customer. So let's take a look at how that works. This is going to take a few minutes. So take a look here. These deliverables that go to control quality, the outcome could either be something called an accepted deliverable eventually. But at this point, we're going to show this as being a deliverable that has been checked, and therefore we use the term verified. Right now, this deliverable, if it passes the test, it is not yet accepted. It is verified. So we have a verified deliverable from here, a verified deliverable from control quality. Even though in our minds it's something that we have approved for the customer to review, we don't call this accepted just yet. It will become accepted in the future when it gets to the customer, but right now we call it a verified deliverable. There's a very big difference in the world of the PMI between when something is verified and when it is accepted. Verified means it has been checked internally, but it has not been accepted by the external customer. So there's still one more step that needs to happen here. This verified deliverable needs to go to the customer for inspection. And this process where it goes for inspection is known as validate scope. And in validate scope, this is where your customer is checking this verified deliverable. It's verified internally, but it needs to be inspected. So I'm going to put a temporary note here just to remind you of what exactly is happening. This is an internal inspection in control quality, but external inspection in validate scope. Does that make sense? Because that's really what it is. They're both inspection oriented. The tool and technique that is used in both is really inspection, but in the external case, that's the customer. The internal case is you. So let's take a step back and look at the events that have happened so far. It started off with your project charter. Your project management plan was produced. Your project management fed the creation of deliverables. And by the way, the project management plan feeds so many other things. Ultimately, we got to control quality, where the deliverable was checked. The deliverable passed the test in this particular example. And then it became a verified deliverable, and now it's gone to the customer for inspection. Now, if it does pass the customer's inspection, it is at this point that we get an output that we can call an accepted, note the word accepted, deliverable. See, that accepted deliverable is pretty much one of the big pieces that will help your project be closed eventually. Without an accepted deliverable, your project will continue until it produces what the customer wants, or maybe it will be shut down. So this is a very important piece. Okay? Now, going beyond this, which is the good story, what happens if we find ourselves in a do loop? What happens if we find ourselves trying to please the customer over and over again? Or what happens if we find ourselves trying to please quality control because what operations or what the project produced is just not fit for use? We can also look at that. So let's hone in here and take a look at control quality with another pair of eyes. And let me get rid of this text now that you know what exactly was happening in control quality and validate scope. So I'm going to get rid of all of that now that you've got a good picture of what is happening. And I'm going to show you another set of events that could happen. So in control quality, we could end up getting something else. We could end up getting a change request. Change request. Okay, now all that I'm showing you, with the exception of the managed project knowledge process, this stuff is still in the 5th and the 6th edition. So this is pretty boilerplate, and I'm glad that the PMI has kept this flow of information pretty consistent across editions. So if you need to make that jump from the 5th to the 6th, a lot of what I'm showing you here is what you already know, hopefully. So change request could be an output of control quality. When do we get a change request? If quality control says, no, this is not fit for use, it does not conform to requirements, and it has to be redone, we get a change request. That change request has to be processed through the appropriate channel. Now I'm going to show you what happens here. This change request goes to a process known as perform integrated change control. This is also an integration. So I'm going to show this to you over here, just so you get a good picture. I'm going to put it up instead. This will help our flow in this image a little bit. So we get a change request. I'm just going to call it CR to make it easier. So change request is going to be called CR from henceforth. We get a change request, and that change request goes to perform integrated change control. Also in integration. And in perform integrated change control, we have a body of people known as the Change Control Board. And these folks are reviewing the change requests, and they are approving or rejecting the change requests. Consequently, one of the outputs that you're going to get from perform integrated change control could either be an accepted change, or I should say an approved change request. Let's get the names right. Very important, we call it what it is. It's an approved change request. And this approved change request will then be put back into production. Now, the way it works is it's going to come out of here. We call it an approved change request. I'm just going to call it approved CR. You get the idea. Change request, okay? Approved change request. It comes out of there and it goes all the way down to where we started a little while ago. It goes as an input right back there into direct and manage project work. So if we zoom in here, we can see what is actually happening. Direct and manage project work is taking this approved change request, and direct and manage project work is again going to produce a new version of the deliverable. For example, let's just call it version X, because this could happen time and time and time again until we get it right. So it could be version 1 or version 2 or version 3. So we do it again and again, trying to get it right until we get the right version. At that point, it goes to control quality again, right? And hopefully this time we don't have any change request. Hopefully this time it's going to be just a verified deliverable, you know, and this could be a cycle of life for any of the deliverables or sub-deliverables in the project. All right. I also cover a lot of this stuff in one of my videos called PMBOK Guide Mainline. So if you haven't seen that video, you might want to see it. It's more freeform, or less freeform, I should say. All the boxes are the same size and it's less organic. This is very organic. And I'm not using PowerPoint, as you can see. But you kind of get the idea of what is going on. All right. So accepted deliverables, which we got from this whole cycle, is then going to become an input somewhere else. Accepted deliverables becomes an input to the very final process in the chain. And I could say in the chain, looking at a phase or even looking at the entire project. And this process is called close project. Or phase. So in close project or phase, we have our accepted deliverables going in, and at the same time, coming out of it, we have a very important output. And this output encapsulates the transition of the deliverable to the customer. So let me explain what exactly is happening between these two processes, because a lot of folks get confused. When we look at validate scope is the acceptance of the deliverable by the customer. We get accepted deliverables. Taking a look at close project or phase, this is the transition or the transfer of the deliverable to the customer. You build a ship for the customer. The customer inspects the ship on your site or on a water body near your site, signs off and accepts it, that it meets the requirements. The next step will be to transition that vessel over to the customer. And there's a whole dog and pony show to do that. The transition is the handing over of the vessel, training, equipping them to be able to manage it themselves, or to empower those people who the customer wants to handle the vessel, empowering them with knowledge. showing them the systems, showing them the quirks in the vessel, the peculiarities. Maybe it's a cutting-edge technology equipped vessel. All of that stuff is going to happen in a final transition. It's called final product service or result transition. Keyword here is transition. You're transitioning the deliverable to the customer. Final product, service, or result transition could be an entire dog and pony show, meaning it could be a very involved activity in some companies, depending on what that deliverable is. Okay, before you transition huge deliverables over to the customer, a lot goes into it. All right, so final product, service, or result transition is your final transition, and from there the customer or the consultants that are now in charge of that vessel or that deliverable, you know, from that point they take it over. All right, now to go a step further, I should also show you that not only could we get change requests as part of control quality. I know as we were going through this, you might have asked, well, what if the customer rejects the deliverable? Absolutely, that could also happen. So from this process, we could also draw a line to show that change request could also be an output of validate scope, for example. So I'm going to append this a little bit. For those of you who are trying to keep up with my multiple acronyms, I'm going to write change request in here. So we've got the change request. We now know what that is. Anytime you see CR in my presentations, it will mean change request. Especially when I'm trying to run through the simulation, I use a lot of abbreviations. So let me correct this to change request. And I'm going to try and get an image out. It's going to be very small, but hopefully it will help some folks who would like to look at this again. So this is approved change request. All right. Now we're not quite done. We've still got a little bit of discussion here that needs to happen, and that is with regards to the other processes in integration. So in integration, we have close project or phase. This one right here, that's also from integration. We also have perform integrated change control, also in integration. And we also have a process known as monitor and control project work. So where does monitor and control project work fit in? I'm going to show you in a second. Monitor and control project work is the overarching integrative process that is used to monitor, control, and integrate associated pieces of monitoring and controlling on the project, and also to provide a report, a work performance report that shows stakeholders what is happening on the project, where the project actually is. So if you think about monitor and control project work, it cuts across the entire project. Very important process. So I'm going to put it right here. Monitor and control project work. Monitor and control project work feeds off processes in the monitoring and controlling process group, the same process group that it is, and what you get from those processes is known as work performance information. I'm only going to show you a couple of these relationships here, and in another video I'll show you a little bit more. But we have outputs from control quality and validate scope, and this is known as work performance information. So this work performance information comes from control quality, and it also comes from validate scope, as you can see here, and it goes into this one right here. It goes into monitor and control project work. Goes in there. So work performance information is your analysis of work performance data. Work performance data comes from this process over here, direct and manage project work. So there is a flow of how this stuff happens, and I cover this in a different video, but let's just draw a line from here. This is going to be your work performance data. Work performance data. And this work performance data is, for example, a raw observation of something on the project. A raw observation could be there are 5 defects. So what? What does that mean? For it to mean something, we have to provide a context and an analysis of their 5 defects. Or Phil, a resource on this project, is going to be absent for 2 weeks. Okay, why do I care? What does that mean? So for work performance data to mean something, it has to be analyzed. And that analysis needs to take place in the monitoring and controlling process group processes outside of integration. Now, to get a visual of this, you need to go to page 25 of the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, or you need to go to page 61 of the PMBOK Guide 5th edition. Either way, you'll see all the processes I'm talking about. So I'm talking about control scope, control schedule, validate scope, and so on. You'll see that work performance data is an input to those processes. So I'm showing you an arrow here of WPD, work performance data, going into control quality. As it goes into control quality for an analysis of sorts as to how that data relates to quality, as the output, we're going to get work performance information. Go look for my other video if it seems like this is getting a little bit too heavy. I would suggest that other video. We also have the same work performance data, and if I can show you with a dotted line, it's that same work performance data. I'm going to show you the blue line here, dotted blue line. This same work performance data is also an input to validate scope. And from the analysis of the work performance data in validate scope, we get work performance information. All right. So far, we've looked at develop project charter. If I can take you down memory lane and remind you, this is where it started. Develop project charter. And then we went to develop project management plan, where we got the project management plan. I should highlight these processes red as well. Integration, integration. The outputs, of course, are integration as well. Project management plan is integration. The project charter is also from integration. And you can see direct and manage project work, perform integrated change control. I also had that highlighted as well. Monitor and control project work. I'll highlight that red as well. Very important integration process right there. And lastly, we have close project or phase. So it's been quite a bit of a journey for those people who are newly coming into this. This is going to end up being a very small image, but I will save this image. I'm going to try to make this available to those folks who care to have it. All right. In our next video, we will continue from where we stopped and move into other areas of the PMBOK guide, showing how it all comes together. I hope that helps you in your studying of the PMBOK guide, 6th edition or even 5th edition. Thank you for your audience, and don't forget to subscribe and share this with your friends studying for the exam. Bye for now.